Here we go with chapter 7. I hope you're enjoying the different colors that I'm using as background. Just a little something different. This is Packers. This is going to be Packers, green and yellow. So a couple things happen in chapter 7. The first is that we have to know all our clothing vocab. And we have to be able to describe how something looks. So starting out, you might say something like was hot Tina on, and you might respond Tina hot einen Rock on. So you might notice anhaben means to have on. It's a verb with a separable prefix, and if you can see, that separable prefix goes at the end. There's another one up here at the end. So haben conjugates just like we've always known it. Ich habe, du hast. There's the es hat. And then you just put the on at the end. So what else do we have here? You can also, instead of anhaben to mean to wear, you can also use tragen, which also means to wear. Interesting thing about tragen is that it's a stem vowel change. So the A changes. So it's ich trage. Now remember, with the stem vowel change verb, it only changes in the do and the er, z, s. So it takes an umlaut. Du trägst. There's the s trägt. And the plural is always as we expected. Wir tragen, no umlaut. Ihr tragt, you all wear. And sie tragen. So again, you got to remember that when you have a stem vowel change verb, it only changes in the you, the he, she, it. The ich is the same, the wir, ihr, and sie are the same. So again, you go through all of this vocab, and you might want to be able to say that das Kleid ist zu kurz, it's too short, too eng. There's another thing, too gross. There's another one that's too big. You might ask things like past dir, what can we use? Das Shirt. Does the shirt fit you? Great word there, right? Really easy, shirt. So take a look at this. Past with dir or mir. The shirt is actually your subject. So that's why you have a T there. Past dir, das Shirt. You might also ask, let me move this up. How are wie sind die Jeans? How are the jeans? And you can respond, sie sind zu kurz. They're too short. They're too short. Strangely, jeans, with an S here, means you have a plural, they are, but with Hose, die pants, it's singular. I can't really give you a good reason why. So here, instead of sind, we would say die Hose ist zu eng. The pants are too tight. And again, you got to just remember that with the Hose, it's singular. With jeans, it's plural. All right, what else do we have in this chapter? So in this chapter, again, like every chapter, we're going to look over our dialogue on page 194 dialogue. Look over that, make sure it looks familiar. And then if you look on page 196, 196 has all the stem vowel change verbs that we're learning. So let's look at page 196. So you have fahren, and I went through this in a different video, but let's look them all. We got fahren, we got gefallen. What else do we have? We have essen, geben, lesen. Essen, geben, lesen. Nehmen, sehen, and sprechen. And all the stems, again, changing the U or the he, she, it. This one takes an A umlaut. This one takes an A umlaut. This one changes to ist. This one takes an I. The E changes to an I. Lesen goes to IE. Nehmen goes to nimmt. A little different because you drop the H and add an M. Sehen is sieht. And the he, she, it. And sprechen is spricht. So if you conjugate them all, it's ich fahre, du fahrst, sie es. No, ich fahre, du fährst, sie es fährt. Gefallen is always in the singular or the plural, so it's es gefällt. Essen, ich esse, du isst, sie es isst. The same in the you and the he, she, it. Ich gebe, du gibst, sie es gibt. Ich lese, du liest, sie es liest. Ich nehme, du nimmst, sie es nimmt. Ich sehe, du siehst, sie es sieht. Ich spreche, du sprichst, sie es spricht. Now, one thing I want to point out, I just kind of pointed it out, but let's say it again with gefallen. When you use gefallen, you're going to see it like this. Wie gefällt to us. Wie gefällt dir der Pulli? How do you like the sweatshirt? And you would respond something like der Pulli, which is my subject, gefällt mir nicht. I don't like it. Look, we use nicht here because we're negating the verb. Der Pulli gefällt mir nicht. As opposed to, if I wanted to negate it, we're going back a chapter here, but kein Pulli gefällt mir. That would be different. That would be saying no sweatshirt pleases me. So depending on whether you use nicht, I'm negating gefällt, and in this second one, kein, I'm saying no Pulli. I'm negating the Pulli. So I was just kind of reviewing. So there's the stem vowel change verbs. Again, you can skip. We've went through the culture, but don't worry about the culture for the exam. Flipping on to colors, you're going to want to make sure you know your colors. Those can show up, and you've got, I'm on page 204, and 204 looking through all the colors. And remember, when we ask what color something is, you might, it's a little different than how we say it. They use haben, welche Farbe hat die Handschuhe. Actually, it would be haben, because it's plural. Haben die Handschuhe. What color are the gloves? And you might say, sie sind weiß. Oops. Even I still mix up my E's and I's sometimes. So you have die Farben grün, braun, gelb, weiß, grau, rosa, rot, beige, schwarz, orange, blau. Those are all the ones you use, but you also want to remember that hell means light. So you can say hellblau or hellgrün. And then you have dunkel, which means dark. And finally you have bunt, which means colorful. Bunt is colorful. Okay, so there's those. I'm going to flip through again. Check out the dialogue on 206. Review that dialogue on 206. Any of these activities that you want to do, you're fine to do. And then really the last thing in this chapter, if I'm not mistaken, is wissen. Wissen means to know, and it conjugates a little differently than the average verb. It's ich weiß, du weißt, and this is where it's different. Sie, es, weiß. Like a modal, these two are the same, no T there. So ich and sie, es. It's not like a modal because there's no main verb that goes at the end. But you have to remember that about wissen, to know. Then it's wir wissen, ihr wisst, and sie wissen. Now, something interesting when you're figuring out the difference between wissen and kennen. Remember, wissen means to know something. And kennen is to be acquainted with. Let's see if I can spell acquainted. Acquainted with. So remember, you can be acquainted with a person, and you can even be acquainted with a city. So always remember, this is usually a person or a city over here. This is usually I know a fact of some sort. To give you one more hint here, when you usually know you're using wissen when you see something like ich weiß, then it's a contracted sentence. There's another part of the sentence. Wo Sven wohnt. I know where Sven lives. Also, ich weiß, dass, ich weiß, man, if you see das, it's a dead giveaway. Dass Herr Hermann alt ist. I know that Mr. Herman is old. So you see das is usually a giveaway. So if you have an exercise on the exam that makes you determine whether or not you have to put in the correct form of wissen or the correct form of kennen, you got to remember, kennen is a person and wissen is to know something. Going through the rest of this chapter, always look at the dialogues. So again, the big dialogue at the end is a great thing. Don't worry about the emphasis words, the aber and the doch, but you have a Lesestück on page 211, and that you want to take a look at. Going through the rest of it, there's lots of exercises, workbook exercises that you can go through, and keep in mind that for this chapter and for chapter 6, I posted quite a few videos going over worksheet exercises, and those are Explain Everything worksheets. So you can use those to help you out if you forgot anything or you want a little bit of help. And keep in mind, vocab. Know your vocab. It's really important. So that is chapter 7.